All right, Benny, so for the cookies, we're gonna use butter, vanilla extract, eggs, baking powder, sugar, and flour. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 1 cup of butter and 1 cup of sugar to my mixing bowl, and then I'm going to cream these together. And I've left the butter out for a while because I want it to be room temperature. If the butter is too cold, then it doesn't cream very easily, and I'm not able to get it to blend really nicely with the sugar, and so it can make the cookies taste kind of grainy. So I had to wait for the butter to get really soft to do these. Now I'm gonna get 1 cup of sugar. All right, so I did 1 cup of butter and 1 cup of sugar. Now I have to take these, and I'm gonna get my stand mixer out. So I have this big stand mixer, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it so I can see the numbers a little bit better, and then I just need to plug it in. And now that it's plugged in, I'm gonna put this down, and then I'm gonna put this on 1. And then you can kind of see as it gets mixed. So right now, the butter and the sugar are combining together. And while that happens, I'm gonna start measuring out some more ingredients. And I'm gonna turn this up to 2, just to get it to move a little bit faster. I also need 2 eggs and a tablespoon of vanilla extract, so I'm gonna do that next. So the butter and the sugar are now all together. So I'm gonna crack 2 eggs. And I'm gonna put them in. 1. 2. And then I need to get my smaller measuring spoons to do, I said a tablespoon, but I lied. I actually need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, which is almost a tablespoon, but a tablespoon would be 3 teaspoons. And now I'm going to go ahead and mix all of these together. There we go. Now I got it locked in. I'm going to turn this back on, and I'm going to turn it up to 2. Now I'm gonna throw away my eggshells because now they're garbage. I don't need them. So now you can see the eggs and the butter and everything is getting together, getting mixed into one. I'm going to turn it up a little bit more just to really make sure the eggs and the butter and the sugar all get mixed together. So now that I have let that go on a pretty high speed, I'm gonna open this up and I'm actually gonna get a spatula and I'm gonna scrape the butter on the sides, because what happens is that sometimes the butter will stick to the sides of the bowl, and I need to use a spatula to scrape it off to make sure that everything gets spread nice and evenly and that there's no butter chunks in my cookies. All right, Benster, so I'm gonna go ahead and scrape all of my butter down the sides of my bowl. And it's very bubbly today. So I've got very bubbly cookie dough over here, but once I put some flour in, it will all even out. So now I'm just scooping the butter off the sides and off the bottom, just to make sure that when I turn this back on, everything can get mixed nice and evenly. All right, now I'm gonna turn this back on. I'm gonna let it mix for a minute. All right, Benny, now I'm gonna add the flour, salt, and baking powder. So I'm gonna start by adding 2 3/4 cups of flour. So I'm gonna add 1. And 2. And now I need to add 3/4. So I'm gonna add 1/4. I'm making a little bit of a mess. I'm spilling flour everywhere. 1/4. This is 2/4. And 3/4. All right. So I've added my 2 3/4 cups of flour. Now I need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. and 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Now I'm going to mix all of this up one last time to turn it into a dough. All right, Benny, so now this is turning into a dough. So right now we're just watching the flour mix with the butter, the eggs, the sugar. So we're watching everything mix together, and you can see it's kind of getting thicker and thicker, and it's turning into a dough. Let's see if we look over here. You can see a little bit more clearly. You can see how it's getting thicker and thicker. I'm gonna make it a little bit faster, and then we'll watch it go a little faster. And you can see how all of those things, it's turning into one color instead of more than one. It's looking really good so far. All right, now I'm gonna turn this off. All right, Benny, so now that we are finished making the dough, I gotta take it off of the spinner, and then I'm gonna take the dough that's in the bowl, I'm gonna wrap it in 3 sections, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge. So I need some plastic wrap. And a spatula. And this looks like really good cookie dough. All right. Oh, there's still a little bit of cookie dough on this other side. Now I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna push it up and over. I'm gonna put this part in the sink. And I'm gonna start wrapping my cookie dough. In plastic wrap. So I'm just gonna move this back a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab my plastic wrap. Here's my first piece. It's a little tangled, but that's okay. Because all I need to do is get it semi-flat. And then I'm gonna scoop a little bit of cookie dough on here. Like 1/3 of the cookie dough that I have in here I wanna have on this first one. I wanna make sure there's not too much of it, so make sure there's not too little. Right. So here's about 1/3 of my dough. About 1/3 to 1/2 of the dough. And let's see. This might be a little too much, so I'm gonna actually just take a little bit out of this one and throw it into here. And you know, a lot of times people will do about half of the dough, they'll split it in half. I like to split it into thirds when I wrap it, because with sugar cookie dough, you can only roll it out so many times before it is not good. So I'm trying to just roll it out a couple. I like to have a few more things of dough. That way when I roll it out, I make sure that I can roll out a little bit more. And there's some flour on this, but that's okay because it's on the outside. Now I'm gonna get my next piece of plastic wrap. And let's get about half of what's left. I want to put into this one. All right. So now I'm taking about half of what's left and it's going in here. I'm going to wrap this section up. And I'm going to get my last piece of plastic wrap. And I'm going to go ahead and place this down. And, this is going to go in the sink. So I'm just going to move it over to the side for now, and then I'll put it in the sink in a minute. And then I am just going to scrape the last of my cookie dough out of the bowl. I want to make sure I get all of it, all of it, all of it. So I'm going to start with this big piece, and then I'm going to scrape what's left. And then just put it right onto here. All right. Good, I got all the cookie dough out of there. So now I'm gonna just wrap this up. And I'm gonna take my 3 stacks of cookie dough, and I'm gonna go put these in the fridge overnight. That way they are nice and chilly in the morning. And then after that, I'm gonna clean up, so we'll be back. All right, Bensters, so I need to go through and just spray the counter and wipe them down really quickly. And spray my machine and wipe that down. And I got a little bit of flour on the chairs. So I'm just trying to get a light spray. It's not super dirty over here right now. But I do not want bugs in my apartment, because that would be gross. So I just gotta spray everything down really quick. All right, so now that everything is sprayed down, I'm gonna go over to the sink and do a little cleaning. I gotta do some scrubbing. All right, Minnie, this is the last thing I have to do for this first step, is just clean everything up. So now I am just going through and I'm gonna scrub everything clean. I don't have a ton because most of my stuff can go in the dishwasher. So all I really need to do is spray the top, the bowl, and the piece that goes, the actual piece that spins. So now that I've sprayed everything, I'm just gonna take my sponge and I'm gonna scrub it all. I just want it to be nice and clean because I would not like for any of my things to be dirty when I'm trying to make more cookies. That would be disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. All right, so I'm gonna start with this piece right here. So this is the piece that goes on the top to keep everything from flying out. So it's a very helpful piece. And I'm just gonna move it over to the drying rack. Now I'm gonna do the bowl. So the bowl gets pretty clean because I scrape it so I don't have a lot of big pieces, but it is where everything kind of goes. So I like to use the harsher side of the sponge just to make sure that anything that's still stuck on there that I couldn't even scrape off really comes off when I am scrubbing. Alright, Spencer, so the bowl is just about clean. I'm trying to make sure I get all of it. So it's really important that this stuff stays really clean. Alright. So now my bowl is nice and clean. And the last thing I'm going to do is just get this piece right here. I'm going to try and get it with my fingers a little bit first. This is a little hard to scrub. And then I'm actually going to spray this with soap one more time. All right, and now that I have it sprayed with soap again, I'm just going to get my sponge wet and I'm going to scrub this. And I want to just make sure I'm getting in all the little nooks and crannies, getting it really, really good. And this is a pretty easy piece to clean because it doesn't have a lot going on, but there are still some small places I want to get into and make sure I rinse all the soap out of. All right, so everything from making the cookie dough is now clean. So tomorrow I'm going to cut the cookies out and I'm going to put them in the oven, and then I will show you how I do that process. All right, Benny, that is all for today, and I'll record some more for you tomorrow. All right. All right, Benster, so now we're going to do our second ball of cookie dough, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And this one got a little bit weirdly shaped in the fridge, so I'm just going to take some of these really thin pieces and I'm just going to try and like push them back into a ball a little bit, because I don't want my cookies too thin or else they'll burn and taste really gross. And I don't know about you, but I don't like burnt cookies. I think they're yucky. Now that it's back into a ball, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get my roller out again, And just slowly kind of work this until I get it to about 1/2 inch thick again. And these little pink pieces here that I have on the ends of my roller, those mark 1/2 inch away from the roller. So that way I don't have to think about it too hard. I already have them. And once the pink pieces touch the ground or touch the table or touch the mat, I know that my dough is thick enough. And it also helps even out if there's any bumps or anything. It just gets you a really nice and even sheet of cookie dough. That way, as I'm doing it, I don't have to think too much about how much I'm spreading out the dough. All right, Benster. So I'm going to keep rolling this out until it's just the right thickness. So I'm just about finished with this first one. It's a little bit thick still up top, but I'm going to keep pushing this out. And I'm actually going to take some of this side and I'm going to roll it back in a little bit. Because it's a little bit weirdly shaped up top. So I'm trying to just get it to be a little bit more even. So now I'm just going to go ahead and push this last little bit to get this nice and flat, or as flat as I can make it. But I don't think I'm going to cut right up top, just because up top it's really thin. And that's sort of where I put the ball back together, is right around there. So you can see that those pieces are still quite a bit thinner. So I just want to do, not quite there. I want to make sure that I'm not using all the way to the end over here, because it's going to be too thin and I'm going to burn the cookies. So for this next one, I have a little baby onesie for the baby shower. So I'm going to do a little baby onesie for some of these. And I'm just going to cut as many of these as I can in this space. So I don't know how many that's going to be, but I think probably 5 or 6. Will that work? That will. Yeah, so I got 5 out of this one, which is good. It's not a ton, but it's also not too little of a number. All right. So again, I'm just gonna start peeling this up. I'm gonna start making my ball over here. And I'm actually gonna go over here because I have so much cookie dough over there that I'm not using. But it's gonna be really easy to start making a ball over there. And I forgot to get a new piece of parchment paper, so I gotta do that in 1 second. before I peel these up, I gotta get another piece of parchment paper. Luckily, my parchment paper is already cut. I just have to lay it out. All right, there we go. So now I got all the cookie dough out. I'm gonna put it back in its ball. I'm gonna get my parchment paper. I'm gonna move my cookie cutter over there. I'm gonna just slowly peel up my onesies that I made. All the onesies I cut, and I'm gonna put them over here. Okay. She's safe, she's still good. All right, so I've got all my onesies picked up. There we go. And now I'm gonna just roll out my ball again. Make it nice and easy. Right. And now you can see it rolls out much easier the second time because the cookie dough has warmed up a little bit. So this time, instead of doing our onesie again, I'm gonna do a different one. This here is a little rattle, but like a baby bear shape. So I'm gonna do that one for this next group of cookies. And I'm gonna do it just sort of diagonal a little bit. I think I can get 3 out of this shape. Yeah, that'll be better. All right, and then I can do my third up here. Good. And now again. I'm just gonna take all my cookie dough, pile it up, put it over in the corner. And these ones are a little bit harder to get all the cookie dough out of, so I'm actually gonna peel the rattles before I do this. My timer just went off, so as soon as I get all of these onto here, we're gonna go over to the oven and take the cookies that are in the oven out. So I'm gonna pick this one up, place it on here, and I'm gonna pick our last one up. It's not gonna fit on this piece of parchment paper super nicely, but I'm just gonna put it on here for now. No, I think I can actually make this one fit too. If I adjust a little bit, and slide all of these over. There we go. So now, let's go over to the oven and get our first round of cookies out. All right, Benny, so I'm gonna take our first round of cookies out of the oven. They should be cooked through, but still nice and light. Yeah, and they look perfect. So I'm gonna take these out of the oven, and then I'm actually just gonna sit them right here for a few minutes because I want to make sure they're cooking totally through. So what you do is you just leave them on your baking sheet for a few more minutes, and then once they are totally cooked through, so I'll leave them on here for about 5 more minutes. Once they're totally cooked through, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a little spatula and I'm just gonna flatten it out a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna do that now. So I'm gonna take a spatula and I'll flatten it out a little bit, but I'm gonna leave it on here for about 5 minutes because I wanna make sure that they're getting completely cooked through and that the bottoms are nice and browned. So I'm just gonna take a spatula and kind of press on these just to keep it flat. Sometimes what will happen when you're doing sugar cookies is the middle of the cookie will rise, but the sides of the cookie will not, and so you'll get like a bubble in the middle. And that makes it harder to decorate. So I'm just gonna go through. I'm gonna do a gentle push on each of them. And now I'm just gonna leave it for 5 more minutes. And then in 5 minutes, I'm gonna come over and we'll take them off of here. All right, Benny, while we're waiting for those to be finished, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna roll this out one last time, and then I'm gonna get started on my next one. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna roll my last piece of dough out just a little bit. I wanna see if I can get one more bear. And if I can get one more bear, then I should be good to then put my bear rattle in the sink. So I can fit exactly 1 bear. And actually, if I'm careful about this, I might be able to fit, no, I can fit a bear. All right, so now I'm gonna pick this up. And I've got my bear. All right, and so I'm gonna just gently take my bear, I'm gonna peel it up. And I'm just gonna place it on my parchment paper, and then I can throw this piece away. And now I'm gonna take my last piece of dough, I'm gonna start rolling this one out. So now we're on our last piece of dough. I'm gonna roll this one out. So I'm gonna keep rolling this. This will definitely got a little bit of ways to go. This is a big piece of dough. Didn't get all of my pieces totally even. But it's okay. So we're almost there. But this is also why it's important when you wrap your dough that you want to make it as even as possible, because this one is a lot harder for me to roll than the other two were because it's quite a bit bigger. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep going. Slowly but surely we're getting there. Almost done. So close. But also you can see, because I've had to do a lot more rolling of this one, there's a lot more air bubbles. So air bubbles, you don't want a lot of them because that'll make your dough maybe pop in the oven, and that's not good. And then there'll be holes in your cookies. All right, so now I'm gonna just go through and give it a couple of last rolls. We're gonna cut out some shapes, and then I'm gonna move some of my cookies to the cooling rack. All right, so for this next one, I'm gonna take the mushroom shape, and I'm gonna do a bunch of mushrooms, as many as I can get on here. Let's see, I can probably get 5 or 6. Let's find out together. Definitely 5. So I don't think I can get a 6, but like the acorn, the mushroom has a smaller size, so I'm gonna do the smaller size mushroom to get a couple of small size mushrooms. So I can get probably 2 of them here. And then I can always cut more small size mushrooms once I'm done with that. So I got about 7 cookies there. And I'm gonna go ahead and peel up my dough. I'm gonna start rolling this into a ball. I'm just gonna put it up in the corner here. Benster. We're almost there. Oh. Okay, I saved it. I almost just ripped some dough off of that cookie, and that's definitely not what I want to do. So the dough that's still in here is really tight, so I'm going to try and pull a couple of cookies out, and then I can get the rest of it. So I'm going to pull this cookie off of here. I'm going to place it on my parchment paper, and then I'm going to pull another cookie off of here. And I'm going to place it on my parchment paper. And we're just going to take a couple of pieces of this dough that we can get to now. I'm going to put it back into the ball. Those pieces are pretty stuck in there, so I don't want to try and dig too much for those. take my little mushrooms. I'm gonna peel these up. Oh, it's okay. Thought I might have ripped it in half, but I did not. So I wanna just take my little mushrooms, and they're gonna go on our parchment paper also. And now I'm gonna take the rest of my big mushrooms. I've got 3 more. I'm gonna peel these up. I'm gonna put them on the parchment paper. Oh, don't rip. I'm really stuck on the other side today. And so I gotta gently pull these up. Oh, I did it. I really thought that one was gonna end up back in our ball, but it's okay, it was saved. The nice thing is, as long as it's not the 3rd time that I'm rolling out the dough, I can usually save any of the cookies if they get ripped when I'm peeling them up. I haven't had that problem yet, but sometimes it does happen. All right, so now I have all of that. I'm gonna leave our dough here for a minute, and I need to go and move all the cookies to the cooling rack so that way I can get ready to start decorating them. All right, buddy, so I took the first round out of the oven and they're on the cooling rack, and now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start rolling out the dough. I have to roll this out 2 more times, and then we'll have done all of the cookie cutting, and then I just have to wait until all the cookies are cool to decorate. All right. So I'm gonna roll this out. Get it to about 1/4 of an inch all around. Oh, hope it doesn't come up on me. Saved it. All right. So for this one, I'm gonna do, I have a little baby blanket with like a fox head. So it's sort of like a little, it's just cute. And they're doing a woodland forest theme for the baby. So the nursery is all themed with mushrooms and different woodland animals. So that's what we're doing. So let's see, I'm gonna cut 1. 2 of these, and then let's see if I can get just like a little mushroom in here. Not sure if I can. Not quite. Okay, so I've got a couple of fox blankets. We'll see if we're gonna do any more of these or some more little mushrooms for our last roll. All right. So now I have a couple of fox blankets. I can fit 1 on this piece of parchment paper, and then I will have to go and switch this one for another one. All right. So I've got 1 of those. And then I'm just gonna slide this over towards the oven. And I'm gonna get a fresh piece of parchment paper so that way I can fit the last of my cookies on it. So I'm gonna go move this over to the oven. And now I'm getting a fresh piece of parchment paper. And I'm just gonna place that right here. And I can take my other fox blanket. I'm just gonna go ahead and place it right over here. And now I'm gonna pick up the last of my cookie dough. And this is the last time I'm gonna roll out the dough. All right, let's see. And then I'm gonna do a couple of little mushrooms because I think they look really cute. So, and then I did about 4 more mushrooms. So I think they just seem super cute. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get the last of my dough. And, oh no. Okay, saved it. And I'm just gonna take my mushrooms and I'm gonna place them on my parchment paper. All right, and so I have to throw a little bit of dough away, but not much. And now I just need to wait for the oven to be open and I can keep putting the rest of my cookies in. And then in a few minutes, or well, not in a few minutes, but in tomorrow, they'll all be cooled down and I can start decorating them. All right, Benny, so I found another one that I have been doing. I did a couple of, and I think it comes out pretty cool. So I want you to see it. This is the little baby onesie. And I just think this is so cute. And because it's a baby shower, I feel like this is very appropriate for me to show you how I decorate it. So I'm just gonna outline it. This one's a little bit different from the mushroom because there's kind of a spot that I'm not gonna totally outline. And that's because for like little baby onesies, they have these little leg holes, but then the butt is like a little bit longer in the back. So I have to do that part kind of separately. Then I'm just gonna go through and just like I did with the mushroom, I'm gonna fill this in. Yeah, so I did a couple of these already and they come out pretty cute. And I think you're gonna like this one. This one's kind of a little bit more detailed too, which I think you'll like. So I'll get to explain to you kind of how we do different parts of decorating. So let's see, I'm gonna just take my tool, I'm gonna try and get this as covered as possible because I want a pretty even, I'm not doing any patterns on here, so I want it to be a pretty even little baby onesie. So I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna get it to, you know, I just try and do this to get it to a rough outline, like I said before, because it doesn't need to be perfect when it's still wet, because so this kind of icing is called royal icing. It takes about 24 hours to dry, but you can do really cool designs with it if you give it like a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time, so I can't do really cool designs this time, but I can do some pretty okay stuff. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I thought it would be really cute to give it like a different colored sleeve, and it's been coming out super cute, Benny. I think you're gonna like it. So I just kind of come over here and I'm gonna do a little outline, and I think this is actually the same color as the mushroom. And so I just do a little outline of the little sleeve,
So it's this kind of coppery color, and then it's all kind of in the same color scheme, which is cool. So then I'm just gonna take my tool again. I'm gonna just wipe out on the parchment paper so it gets a little bit cleaner. And I'm just gonna, again, blend this, make it so it looks nice and even. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to be pretty good. And then I've been adding just a cute little collar on top. And so if I kind of do like a little scoop and a little scoop, it kind of gives like a collar look, which is super cute. And then I just am gonna leave this sitting on top. And then I'm also gonna just sit on top these 3 cute little buttons, because the baby will be as cute as a button, right? Hopefully. Hopefully it's not an ugly baby, Benny. If it's an ugly baby, I'm gonna be so sad. I want this baby to be cute as a button. My little niece or nephew.
All right. And so it needs a little bit of time to dry, but this is what it looks like. And I think that's it. I think that's all the ones I have to show you for now, Benny, but I hope you like it. And now I gotta clean up. All right, Benny, now it is time for my least favorite part of baking, which is the cleanup. So you can see the sink, right? Yeah. So now I gotta go through. I gotta turn on hot water. I gotta scrub everything. And I didn't do the dishes yesterday, so I have to not only clean all of the things from decorating, but also all of the things from when I actually baked the cookies and the cookie cutters. So it's gonna take me a little bit, but I'm hoping I can get it done pretty quick. So I'm just gonna start by rinsing everything. I wanna get as much of this icing off as I can. The more water you put into it, the thinner it gets, and so it can kind of thin itself out, and it'll be much easier to scrub with a little bit of icing than it would be to do with a lot. So I'm just gonna try and get this big bowl with the icing in it and just get some water in there. And then I'm gonna rinse it, I think, just one more time, and then I'm gonna let it soak a little bit with some of the good soap that I have. So I'm gonna take my spray bottle soap for this one, and I'm just gonna, and this soap is the Dawn Power Wash, so I can leave it on for a couple minutes and it'll start to kind of activate and start getting rid of some of that stuff. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse my whisk as well. Again, just the best I can. But it's kind of like the bowl where there's a lot on there. And so I wanna get as much off as I can, but I'm definitely gonna need to let this sit with some soap on it as well. So you can see some of the big pieces are coming off, but the smaller pieces are a little bit harder because they don't get hit with water as often. So I'm gonna just give this a little bit more time rinsing, and then I'm gonna get the other side. But I'm just gonna hit this with the soap now. I just wanna get this as best I can. This is a particularly difficult piece to clean because there's so many small parts. I think I cleaned this in the pumpkin video for you. And so you got to see, that was a little bit trickier to clean. But the rest of the stuff is pretty easy, so I don't need my super strong soap. I'm just gonna use the regular dish soap that I have. And I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit on the sponge. And I'm just gonna scrub everything. Get all the frosting out, make sure everything's good and clean. So, oh, now I gotta scrub this one again because I just threw it in a dirty sink. And I'm just gonna go put this on the drying rack. And I'm gonna do my next bowl while I'm at it. So you can see, I'm just getting everything scrubbed out best I can. And then I'm just gonna scrub my spatula. And some of this stuff probably could go in the dishwasher, but the stuff in the dishwasher is clean right now. And I don't wanna empty it and then do it again. Since I'm already washing dishes, it just makes sense to keep going. So I'm gonna do my cookie cutters. And you always wanna hand wash cookie cutters and anything that's like specialty baking items, because if not, they can get damaged in the dishwasher. And I'm actually gonna take these and I'm gonna put them out right next to the sink. So I'm just gonna take these and I'm actually gonna put them out next to the sink on just like a little paper towel. I don't know if you can really see it, but and also my cookie decorator, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna clean this up and put it over to the side. So I'm gonna do all my cookie cutters now. And then I just have a couple of big items left after that, which are much easier to clean because they're a lot bigger. So it takes a little bit more time, but there's no like nooks and crannies in the stuff I have to, well, some of the stuff there's nooks and crannies, but just in the whisk, I think there's nooks and crannies. All right, so that's done. Let me finish up with these. Done washing. Okay. Just get this nice and clean. Now I'm going to just do my rolling pin and my 1/2-inch markers. I'm going to rinse all of this. I'm going to do my measuring spoons. And these I'm going to put on the drying rack again. The honey leaks everywhere, so we put it in the sink. But I'm hoping there's no like soap that just got in it now. put this over on the drying rack. And now I just need to do my small spoons. My little measuring spoons. All right. Now I'm going to take my pan and my nonstick sheet because this is really floppy and I can't really clean it on its own. So I need to usually clean it with like a pan or something underneath it to make sure it gets actually cleaned. If not, it could just be a total disaster. So I'm just going to flip this. And I always clean both sides because one side is on the table and the other side has cookie dough on it. So neither of those are super clean, but we definitely just want to make sure we get this clean, especially if we're going to be doing more baking. And then I'm going to just pick it up. I'm going to rinse it as best I can. And I'm going to, I try and put this on the drying rack, but it doesn't always work. So I always try, and then sometimes I have to just, it'll kind of flop over and some of it'll get dry and some of it won't. And I have to just dry it with a paper towel, but I'm going to dry it as best I can on this. Now I'm going to just do the pan. All right. I also need to do this airtight container because after I wrapped everything in the plastic, in the saran wrap, I put it in an airtight container when it goes in the fridge, when it's cooling. It just helps it so it stays nice and moist, it doesn't get hard. Sometimes just being in the saran wrap, it can get hard, but when I put it, I find that when I put it in an airtight container and I put it in saran wrap, it stays really well, and it stays, it keeps the cookie dough from getting too hard. All right. All right, so now I've done everything except for my big bowl, and I'm gonna bring that back over to the sink now. All right, so I'm gonna start with my whisk attachment, which has been sitting, and it looks like a little bit more came off, and now, see, it's all coming off really easily now. So I'm gonna put this over on the drying rack. And finally, I'm gonna clean out the big bowl. And it looks way better than a few minutes ago. There's still a little bit of icing in here, but nothing that we can't get out with just a light scrub instead of a really hard scrub. That's why I really like the power wash, because the soap will sit and it'll start to do its job before the sponge even gets in there. So it's good when I do stuff like icing. I'm just gonna do like a light scrub on the outside. It doesn't need a lot, just because the outside obviously isn't where we're baking, but it has been in the sink. So I just wanna keep it clean. All right, I think it looks pretty clean now. I'm not seeing any icing in there. It doesn't look like anything is still stuck. It doesn't look sticky. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the drying rack and then rinse out my sponge. Oh, I'm gonna rinse out our scrubber too. Oh, and actually there's one more thing I gotta wash that I almost forgot about, which is the spatula I use to make all the cookies flat. So I gotta wash this. And then that is everything. So, Benny, I hope you enjoyed this. And I can't wait to show you the video once it's done. You can see how much fun it is to make sugar cookies. All right, Benster. Everything is finished now. You got your whole video. And we'll see how long it ends up being. Bye, bud.